We got another clip.
Yeah. Let me share this because it just continues on to the idea of just where are we in this sort of like dating marketplace, modern dating.
It's a hard place out there.
It was a study conducted by 4 universities here in the UK, and it was found that for every 16-point increase for a man in IQ, his prospect of marriage increases by 35%. But for every 16-point increase in a woman's IQ, her prospect of marriage decreases by 40%.
What do we do about that? What do you do about that statistic?
I don't know that you do anything about it. Again, it's all of what we're discussing here are just inherent facts of the human condition about dating, sexual dynamics, and all of this is premised on evolutionary precepts. And I don't think there's anything you can do about it. I don't think there's anything you can do about it, as sad as that sounds, unless you want to settle. Because it's almost like you'd have to, if you're a female, and I do feel for young girls, particularly if I have a daughter in the future, I definitely would feel for her, because that you have ambitions and you want to be something and you want to be someone and you want to achieve all these things and make quite a bit of money. Good for you. You should aim for that sort of thing. But it comes with the consequence of knowing that men that you are looking to get with in a long-term relationship aren't interested in those things. And you're not going to be as attractive as, again, the 18-year-old.
That's good.
The cold hard facts.
Yeah, I appreciate that he acknowledges that there are women who have really high IQ and they're ambitious. They want to do certain things in their life. And the natural consequence of being in that spot is it's just the marketplace. It's not like you have to choose one or the other. It's just a lot harder to find a compatible mate for you. And for him, you know, it's not like like those exist. You're pretty smart. You want to build a business, multi-million-dollar, multi-billion, whatever it is, right? It's going to be a lot harder for you to find a compatible mate that matches your natural giftings, I guess. Or you're going to have to go against like some of those natural instincts in your brain, but you may not be as happy in a relationship like this. So I appreciate that he's pointing that out, you know, just in general.
I mean, so I think what's interesting is kind of like with what Yosef said earlier he's like, I asked like 5 women if a dude made $200K, would they stop working? I think what that does is that shines light into nature, right? Like in a perfect scenario, what would a woman have? And I think the same could go for a man, but in a different way. In the perfect scenario, you know, for a guy, if a woman didn't work, she took care of the kids, she cooked all the meals, she kept the house clean, tidy, would you take that? Assuming that you make enough to provide for the entire home, would you want that? Would that be your scenario? And I think for most guys, that's probably a yes.
Yeah, and so, I think like all the examples we're talking, it's like generalization. Like we're talking about the general. We're not talking about an exception for the rule. Kind of like, you know, the 16-point higher IQ women that are like, you know, I don't know, Blakely or whatever, multi-billion-dollar company. You know, it's a different story. But for the most part, yes, I agree with you.
And so I think I make that point just to call out that it's on both ends and there's priorities on both ends. What I think this data is showing us is things have changed, right? Like if you're looking even outside of the IQ aspect, kind of like what you're saying, like women are going to college. I don't know what the difference is from 50 years ago, but with college, you know, obviously there's people who are just born smarter for some reason, but if you go to college, if you do this, you become smarter. That's your access in society increases because you're making more. You're making more gives you, you know, a different group of access to people. That if that change, you know, everything changes, and so this change has impacted the reality for most people and what they get in a relationship. From a girl's perspective, this is her ideal scenario. From a guy, this is his ideal scenario. But how the world has shifted and changed, we're rewriting, or society and the realities or the settling does not match the natural desires. And I think that's, when I look in this, that's the paradox that's happening that we're trying to figure out. And I don't think we don't know how to adapt quite yet. And I think kind of like what Ben's saying, especially from the man side, like how are we adapting to the new reality? Like things are different than they were. Like you can't just make 50K anymore. You can't just have like a stable job working 40 hours a week. Like those are the non-realities of today. If you want to be an alpha male and have your choice of the women, or if you want a family and have a sexless marriage, like the realities have changed. And so it's like, how are we adapting? And I don't think we know quite yet.